Running is a part of the majority of all sports and it is a sport unto itself. Prior to a run, to increase endurance, resilience, performance output, and capacity, it's important to properly prepare for that. First step in preparing for running or for any type of myofascial release of the calf, we want to utilize the Viper, the vibration technology within it. The athlete's going to lay with their legs extended in front of them, the Viper under the belly of their calf. If they want to increase pressure, they can stack their legs on top of each other and even lift their hips. They want to move the Viper back and forth along the calf muscle, find the most tender area, and then sit and hold on that tender area to cause inhibition of that calf muscle. From a TFL and IT band perspective, again, activities of daily living, sport, etc., cause the front of the hips and the IT band to become overactive and very tight. You can't really stretch the IT band, and the front of the hip is an important area to loosen up. So we utilize the Viper on those areas to help inhibit that overactive muscle before we start to stretch them. Find specific areas of pain that are most tender and simply hold and place direct pressure on those areas versus rolling back and forth. The direct pressure is going to create a better response within the tissue to cause the inhibition and allow things to relax. Runners often get very overactive hamstrings during long endurance activities, so we want to inhibit those overactive muscles. You can utilize the Viper to do such by sitting on the Viper, placing it under one or both hamstrings. If you want to increase pressure, stack the legs on top of one another. Roll back and forth until you find the most tender area, and then sit and hold on that tender spot to cause the greatest increase in inhibition. Another key area to focus on and increase mobility is throughout the upper back or the thoracic spine. You can increase mobility of the thoracic spine or upper back by utilizing the Viper, laying it flat on the ground and laying your upper back over top of it. With your arms across your chest or behind your head, you can start to stretch your back out across the top of the Viper to increase mobility of the spine. The appropriate range of motion in the ankle really plays a factor on what's going on at the knee. If you don't have the appropriate range of motion in the ankle, which is usually caused by a tight calf or gastroc, then your ankle is not going to be able to bend, and that's going to compromise the movement efficiency at the knee joint itself. So following myofascial release of the various muscles, we then want to move into static stretching to help create better range of motion and extensibility of the tissue. One of those muscles in particular is the calf, which allows better mobility at the foot and ankle. If the ankle doesn't move through the appropriate range of motion, it's going to compromise the movement efficiency at the knee joint itself and put undue and excess stress and pressure on that knee that can lead to pain and or more severe injuries. After you've inhibited the hamstring utilizing the Viper and the myofascial release techniques, the best thing to do is to stretch it. There's multiple ways to stretch the hamstring. The simplest one is to lay on your back, grab your leg behind your knee, and extend your foot to try and straighten your knee as best you can. Don't compromise the position of your hips or the opposite leg. And towards the end of the stretch, if you want to pull your toe down towards your nose to perform toe pumps, you'll get a little bit of an extra stretch. Hold the stretch for at least 20 seconds and you can perform 5 to 7 toe pumps at the end. It's great to follow that up with a hip flexor stretch. The hip flexors are short, tight typically in most individuals, and when they're short and tight, it decreases abdominal activity and core stabilization, as well as decreases the activation within the glute muscles themselves. So by stretching the hip flexor in advance of that, the next sequence of events going forward will be to activate certain muscle groups. When you stretch the hip flexor in advance of strengthening the glutes, you're going to get better activation of the glutes to create better strength and power in those muscles. Following inhibition and flexibility of the muscles, the next thing we want to do is start to activate some of the key stabilizers when you're running. One of the exercises to do that to help strengthen the glute medius and the glute maximus is an exercise called backward tube walking. Take exercise tubing or bands, place them around your ankles, keep your belly button drawn in to keep your core and your pelvis stable, and you're simply going to walk backwards, taking a step at a 45-degree angle each time. Bring your feet back to shoulder width apart, and then repeating in the opposite direction. As you extend, make sure you're not arching your back, and make sure that you're extending your hip, your glute, and your quad as much as you can. Another great exercise to activate the hips is the single leg balance reach. This is a great exercise because on your balance leg, you're creating stability through the hips, and on the movement leg, you're creating mobility and taking it through a specific range of motion. Balance on one leg with your hands on your hips. Keep your knee aligned over your toe so your balance leg is in a good, stable position. Keep your belly button drawn in and reach back and out on the opposite leg to extend your hip and your quad and point your toe in somewhat of a running motion. Once you've activated your hips, a great exercise to pull it all together is a single leg squat touchdown. Gets the calf, gets the quad, gets the glute and the hips. Balance on one leg, keep your hands on your hips, and squat down, reaching your opposite hand towards your opposite toe. Make sure you're keeping alignment of your knee between your hip and your foot and not allowing that knee to migrate inward. Once you get as low as you can, push through your heels, squeeze your glutes, and come all the way up into a fully extended position.